I know I haven't even changed my t-shirt. I've not changed the paraphernalia in the background there. Sorry, folks. Just did finish doing the Jersnet podcast with Ben. I did nip back inside, to the main wing of the mansion there to get myself a wee cup of tea to kind of freshen up, revive before I did the Fat Egg preview pods. But I should probably have had a shower and change my t-shirt. But just let's just do it. Let's just do it. But I did want a wee cup of tea, and then I went into the living room. The kettle was boiling, and it was Mary J. Blige, and I mean, on the telly, she was on. She's not been back at the house, and she borrowed the lawnmower. Funnily enough, but she's on the telly, and it's like, I can't do this. I can't have Mary J. Blige going into my head before I go into the preview. But it's too early. It's too. She's at Glastonbury doing No More Drama in the rain. It was, I think, it's a BBC Mary J. Blige at the BBC kind of compilation thing. So I will watch it. The best of times I can't sit and watch Mary J. Blige in front of my wife, or whatever, because this sounds just crying my eyes out. Just crying my eyes out. I've told you before, if you've been watching these pods, maybe even the Jersnet days, I was doing the preview pods, or doing the post match reaction pods for Jersnet, I would throw in a wee song even on them, and I would sometimes give you a bit of Mariah Carey. Oh, Mariah Carey, she's a bit naff. I thought you'd be. And it's no, Mariah Carey, because Mariah Carey I can cope with. She's really, obviously, she's an amazing singer. You've seen the documentary. She's got perfect pitch and all that kind of stuff. Total diva as well. That's fine, but it's no. It doesn't destroy me. The stuff is really good, and I love it, and you want to kind of get down, etc. It's just a kind of cover. It's a kind of protection. I Mary J. Blige. I probably told you a story before about give my wife a run to her work. I was taking the car that day. I must have been taking it for an MOT or something. I was dropping my wife off at her work, and then I was driving back into Glasgow, and I'm like, she says to me, just kind of laughing, it must have been December. She's like, but I got the Mary J. Blige Christmas album, like a CD, still with CDs in the car at that point. So it's a few years ago. And I'm like, Mary J. Blige Christmas album? Come on, a Christmas album? That's a bit naffy. That is a bit, even Mary J. Blige couldn't pull that off. She's like, oh, well, someone for you listening on the way back to this. I thought, I'll just do that. So I just dropped her off and popped it on, to pass the journey in the way back. And the first song was it Little Drummer Boy? You could come, they talk, bum bum. That was me. Had to switch that off because I can't drive when there's tears blinding my eyes. Literal sing the phone book stuff. Sing the phone book. She's the Maria Callas of R&B. That the time the kettle boiled and I'd made a wee cup of tea back in, and she was singing like Elton John's. I don't know what it's even called. Oh, sorry, seems to be the hardest word. No, I didn't realise I was an Elton John fan until I heard Mary J. Blige. It's sad, so sad. It's a sad, sad situation. And I'm getting more and more absurd. I'm getting more and more. It's getting more and more absurd. And it's that thing she tends to do. Where it's a live performance. You think, is she murdering that? She's going a bit awry. She's going a bit. But why am I on the floor? Why am I on my knees? Why is my wife passing me like the Kleenex for my eyes and all that? She's amazing. She's devastating. She rips your soul out and shows it to you, and that's why I don't do her songs in these videos, especially my post match reactions. I will save that for a moment where we're all so happy that we maybe need a wee nudge to let the tears go, because right now things are really, really bad at Rangers, but we don't cry. I don't cry when things are bad. You cry when things are, unless it's completely devastating. Probably cry when folk die and stuff like that. But what it always is, you just bank that stuff. You back it up in a really unhealthy way, and then when it's a good thing happens, then you're safe. It can all come out. Cry when you're happy. You only cry when you're happy. That's what I do anyway. So I think if we were to pull it off on Sunday, maybe that's still too early. I don't know. Hit with some Mary J there, but I couldn't handle that the other night. The Kentucky Derby is decadent and depraved. The Kentucky Derby is decadent and depraved. Probably the greatest piece of journalism, never mind sports writing, probably the greatest piece of journalism I've ever read anyway. But of course, the Old Firm Derby just says, well, Mr. Thompson, hold my pint, because that's what the Old Firm Derby's got to do. It's got to be hold my pint. You can't even just go, well, Hunter, you've probably had one puff of the crack pipe too many there or something. It's got to be hold my pint, says the Old Firm Derby. Kentucky Derby's decadent and depraved. Well, the Old Firm Derby is so decadent that people are selling their tickets for up to £10 profit on seat stub, or whatever you call it. I'm not doing it myself. I've not done that kind of thing myself, but apparently that's what's happened. Changing hands for up to a tenner. this coming Sunday's game in the Old Firm Derby is so depraved that the two horses that run in the Old Firm Derby argue about the name. The very name of the Derby itself is up for. There's a lot of conjecture. They fight about it and that kind of thing. But the Kentucky Derby, it's not even as deep fried, is it, as the Old Firm Derby, because it's at Hold My Beer. Hold My Beer says, no, Tuesday night, Celtic complete 210 minutes against a Kazakh team without scoring a goal. They can't score a goal against the champions of Kazakhstan over 2 legs. Wednesday night, Rangers, hold my beer. At least the guy I saw on Twitter, the Rangers supporter who changed it to Wednesday night, Russell Martin, hold my tofu infused chai latte decaf herbal jasmine whatever tea. At least he was trying an original spin on the hold my beer thing. But the vegan thing is common. Russell Martin's vegan, you see, so that means everything that's non-fattening and totally unhealthy is up. It doesn't do any. I don't really know. It all applies apparently, but Russell Martin is vegan. That explains everything somehow, and that's no the very original. I'm starting to notice a trend. Have you seen Paul Calf's video diaries? It's over 30 years old now, Paul Calf's video diaries. Maybe one of the things that if you watched it now for the first time, you saw it just now, but a bit dated. You weren't invested from the very beginning. You know how these things work. I think a lot of people who are into Star Wars and all that, just they had to see it when it first came. I saw it when it first came out, those Star Wars. It still didn't make any difference to me. It's enjoyable, but I don't remember it not affecting my life or whatever. But I've got other things that do. But part of the allure is it's taking you back to the time you saw it. I was discussing this the other night. Podcast video diaries, was it 35 minutes long or something like that? Baby Cow production for the BBC, Steve Coogan, the fantastic John Thompson. It's just a comedy, a classic bit of BBC comedy. And there's a follow-up, which is 3 fights, 2 weddings and a funeral. Paul Calf and Pauline Calf, the two characters that Steve Coogan does. It's in the Il Catalogo di Questo, the bit where Pauline Calf, you end up memorising stuff. You end up memorising stuff of your favourite films. Monty Python's fans famously always quote Monty Python's With Neil and I. And stuff you take in, you see certain situations in real life and you automatically just comes to you. The quotes from the stuff that's embedded in your psyche. And there is a famous scene in Paul Calf's video diaries, if you know it, it's his sister Pauline, it's her hen do. She's heading out to the start of her hen do. Our fiance Spiros, he's lying shagged out on the couch, totally sleeping. Pauline, can I borrow your wonderbra? Yeah, it's next to the picture of Patrick Swayze. Which one? The one of them sweating in a vest. It's classic stuff. You can't get out of your head. You can't watch any Patrick Swayze films. I've seen Patrick Swayze, and I saw him before he died. I saw him in the West End in London doing Guys and Dolls. It's fantastic. You just can't see him in anything new, Point Break or whatever, without thinking about Pauline, can I borrow your wonderbra? But she's saying to her, right, Paul, I don't want you ruining my hen do. Because Paul's a bit of a drunk and him and Fat Bob, his mate, are going to go out and hit the boozers, and she starts listing the pubs that they can't go to. And it's funny because she lists so many pubs, which means her and her pals are going to, standard night out for them is going to at least 10, 20 pubs. And I know it's 20 pubs she lists because I've counted it. And it's funny, I'm on the podcast the other night and trying to get rid of the ambulance chasers, trying to frighten off the ambulance chasers and the post-match reaction pod. And it's not really trying to chase them. It's a kind of joke and admission of what we all know goes on with the podcast in the world, that you tend to, the biggest numbers of views you'll get is when your team takes a tanking and rival fans are coming on to wallow in your misery. And that's fine, that's part of the game. So we try to kind of run with that, and I'll do a wee deliberately boring bit at the beginning of the pod to try and put these people off. And the other night I was reduced to doing my party piece because it was so bad. The other night in Belgium, I just what have I got that I just can't get wrong, that I will just nip. And I was reduced to do my party piece, which is all the winners of the European trophies and all the runners-up. I know all the European finalists in every season for the club finalists, the Cup Winners' Cup, UEFA Cup, and the European Cup of Champions League, and the Conference League now as well. It's only a few years old, so it's easy to remember them as well. It's going to eventually get the better of me. I'm starting to, the years going quicker, it'll get away from me. But that has been, since I was about 12 years old, I had all the European club finalists memorised. And that was my party piece. Some folk will, disconnect their shoulder or have a good singing voice, can play the spoons or something like that. Mine is Come on. Oh, no, guys, I'm too drunk. Come on. No, is it? Are you trying to tell me that Ferencváros they were runners up in the Cup Winners' Cup, runners up in the First Cup, and they won the First Cup as well in a final against Juventus at Juventus home ground. They just played the one leg. They did, mate. They did. That's what. And the guy's girlfriends gave me her phone number and stuff like that behind his back because the women just loved it. They loved it. It's sensational at parties. They gonna just go through all the runners up of the UEFA Cup. Could you please? All right, okay. Get me some drinks and what have you. But I could do all that kind of stuff. But I cannot remember the pubs and Pauline's listing of the pubs, the El Catalogo de Questo types and that, which is listing all the pubs that they kind of go. And it's like the Miller, the Wheeler, the Pelican, or the Dragon. I think she starts with the Dragon, Partridge Fun Pub, O'Malley's, the Dog, the Gay Gordon. I just can't remember them all. I can't remember them, no matter how many times I've watched it. But I remember the Albion. One day I sat and I just counted along with her how many pubs. I'm like, that's 19. And I was like, oh no, it's 20. Because famously she says, the Albion, and Fat Bob goes, what one? And she's like, both. So there's two Albions, but she only says Albion once, but there's two of them, And I think that's really good. So it's actually, and she ends up with Paul's like, oh, what pub can we go to? And she says, the Dungeon, Paul's barred from there. Why? It's a student pub, and it's 30 odd years old, but it's still relevant today because it's a bit woke. Student pub. There's probably vegans in there who are constantly getting mistaken for vegetarians on Twitter these days, but it's still relevant today. And I thought that's quite mental because what I can do is I can remember. It's just 20 pubs basically. Names of 20 pubs, and I've never really got into memorising them all, but I can remember the 20 different phrases that are being used for anybody in the last week, or maybe even the last month, really, to discuss Russell Martin on Twitter, or if you're for Rangers supporters, on Twitter, on social media posts of any kind, Facebook, WhatsApp groups, podcasts, just these same phrases keep occurring all the time. And there's no sugarcoating. Toxic, that's a big one. Toxic, very toxic. Another Beale, Steven Gerrard, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst. The fans will stop turning up. Snake oil salesman, gaslighting us, arrogant, centre parting, David Brent. And then there's vegan, and vegan. That's the Albion gets mentioned more than once, and it kind of throws you off. The vegan gets mentioned more than once because apparently that's the only way we can describe Russell Martin, and that is at the absolute core of everything that's wrong with Rangers in the month of August 2025. We're having simultaneous conversations this week about how we're told as Scottish football fans of football who live in Scotland, if you want to put it that way, we're being told that we're having these conversations, but nobody in the mainstream media wants us to know that we're having them at the same time because they're kind of contradictory. We're having a conversation, and Alan Hutton's involved in both of them, and I love Alan Hutton. We're having a conversation about how English players, loanees, for example, that are maybe coming from Championship clubs or Premier League clubs, English Premier League clubs that are not good enough to play for, so they're being loaned out. The kind of people that are going to Rangers, they're no good enough. They can't handle Scottish football. Scottish football is a bit of a culture shock for them. They come up here thinking they're going to waltz it because it's a much smaller league. Obviously, the coefficients totally inconsequential compared to England's. But they can't handle the tactical nous of the teams up here, the speed of the game, the physicality, the fan pressure, the media scrutiny. It's actually pretty intense. And while we watch all four of our European representatives going out of the European competition that they're in, in successive nights, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night, we're also having a conversation about how absolutely awful Scottish football is and how it's an absolute disgrace to itself and it really has to do much better in Europe. And I think there you have it in a nutshell. There you have the mindset of a Scottish football fan. Because make no mistake, Scottish football media outlets are not trying to change your views. They're not wanting to alter your thinking. In fact, to be fair, they don't really want you thinking at all. They just want you to give you kind of different angles and information that will give you emotional kind of reactions that will confirm you in your set instinctive opinions, which will maintain the two emotions really that you're into Scottish football to enjoy. and that's Schadenfreude. We thought you could come up here. You thought you were a big England international. Thought you were a big England under-16s international. You're going to waltz up here and just totally coast it, right? How do you like us now, pal? You got to draw at Paisley. You got to draw at Paisley. How do you like us now? You found out all about Scotland now. Nemo, Mila, Chesset, Impune, or whatever it is. Aye, brought you down to size, didn't he, pal? Or the other one is Shameful Rage. Shameful Rage. You know what that's? Fuck are you doing? In Europe, Scottish football, nothing. You can't even get, MD in the Champions League group stages. Hibs, Europa together, Aberdeen have fell down into the conference. Dundee United, it's a total non-starter, and it's a joke. It's a joke. It's an embarrassment to Shankly, Stein, McLean, Smith. Just stop it. You know, that's the kind of. So you're either shaming your rivals, or you're being ashamed of yourself. It's Schadenfreude, or it's shame-filled rage, and it's shame, just shame. That's what Scottish mainstream media wants you to have, is shame. Show the shame. You know, we're going to. It's Rangers against Celtic. Why is the two biggest clubs in the country, the Presbyterians, the dour Presbyterians, the Protestant will work out? You've got to keep going. You've got to keep going. The Catholic guilt. You know, the Catholics up there, they've got to confessional, and oh my God, God's watching me, and this kind of and the guilt, oh, I shouldn't have done these things, you know, but it's just two different types of shame that we're made to feel about ourselves before we even, and the only way to get out is to shame the opposition, shame the rivals, or shame. Where's the love? Where is the love? You know, if you're doing that thing, if you're reacting to this by switching off, which is what most people would do. But if you're doing a Scottish thing, I'm actually more Irish. When I think about it in my core. I mean, Scotland's just small hat. I'm a bit more exotic. I'm Irish, or Scottish. I'm British. I'm proud to be British. That's the kind of thing. Well then, well done. You've actually just experienced the two very things I'm talking about. You get the Schadenfreude, you know, of kind of Scottish football. It's crap. I'm not Scottish. I'm not in the Tartan Army. I'm not part of all that kind of crap. I'm just thinking about, you know, Celtic representing Irishness and how we're better than Scotland. We're totally, and that's just holding us back. I'm just thinking about Rangers, how we should actually be in the English Premier League and all our pals down south because we're part of being British. And that's you. That's the shame and also the Schadenfreude. You know, you're laughing at people being Scottish football, but you're actually part of Scottish football. You realise that you're totally ashamed of it. That's the very thing that I'm talking about. Where is the love? Where is the love? Where's the originality of thought? Where's the revolutionary spirit, the revolutionary zeal? Because make no mistake, if we're finding only total domestic dominance and winning in Europe, excelling in Europe is acceptable in any given season for Rangers. If us as Rangers supporters are finding that's the only thing, there's going to have to be a major revolution at the club, and revolutions tend to be bloody and messy. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Right now, things are a bloody mess. All we can do is seem to hit wilder degrees of the shame and the Schadenfreudes. I want to see where this goes with Russell Martin. Give the man a full transfer window. Give him at least another month in the job, but he's going to have to earn it on Sunday, because right now we're finding wilder degrees of shame and Schadenfreude. So we're already, you know, just looking for a variation of. We're working ourselves to a kind of DEFCON 1 of toxicity regarding Sunday's Old Firm derby. If I wanted to go to an Old Firm derby to spout bile at Rangers, I'd get a season ticket for Parkhead. I'd get into the wee corner. I'd get a ticket for the away corner on Sunday, boasting about going to the game on Sunday, boasting about selling your ticket online for the game on Sunday, boasting about no buying the Europa League package and stuff like that, turning up with a bed sheet in the middle of the night when there's nobody at Ibrox, there's no game on, and putting it over, was it the Bluebell gates? So certainly one of the two sets of gates, with a message saying, see, when there is a game here, we'll no be here. But see, when there isn't a game on here, we are here. But see, when there is a game, we won't be at that. That's fine. It's good to know. I know people are upset, but it's just getting a bit out of hand. We want to get it to the point where on Sunday there's going to be disorder. That's what it sounds like. We're whipping ourselves up, or we're being whipped up and taking part in it to the point where there's going to be some sort of disorder. And it's all very, I'm going to get a bit heteronormative here, but it's getting a bit, you know, I know we'll go into the living room and my wife will be watching these Real Housewives, Desperate Housewives, that was the fictional thing, Desperate, the Real Housewives of whatever. And they're just tearing strips off each other and just creating. But that's what we're doing just now. If you're into the whole kind of macho thing, being a bloke, because you don't like veganism, you don't like vegetarianism, you don't like decaf or herbal or whatever the infusions are in like that, you don't like centre partners, that kind of thing. You're totally hard, and that's what rounds are all about as far as you're concerned. Well, why are you doing this whole thing where you're basically saying online and to your pals and all that? I'm telling you, see if she turns up here, see if she comes round here and starts eyeing up my man again, I will take the face. Don't, Jesse, don't. No, I'm telling you, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to whip myself. That's what we're doing. We're whipping ourselves up into a frenzy of, this is what you might do. You better watch yourself. That's your own stadium. That's your own. Don't, Connie, please, just don't. It's no. Let's have a recap. Usually in a preview pods for one game, I'll do a wee kind of decompress or a recap of the last game. That was a 2-hour post-match reaction pod the other night. I think that's more than enough for these folks. You've had more than enough from me. Your ears must be bleeding. Congratulations to anybody who's keeping up with the bilge I am putting out there. And I was dying. I was just shattered. I was absolutely shattered, and it just took all energy out of me. And I was just speaking one. Well, by the end of it, I think I was actually falling asleep. I remember saying that somebody who worked in the Today Show and Radio 4, and she was talking about how she's actually interviewing somebody. They played it back, and she's interviewing somebody. She hadn't got enough sleep the night before because they've got to go up at like 3 in the morning to get on the Today Show. I think it starts at 6, and she was falling asleep during the interview. And the guy's like, "You alright?" No, that's what it's getting like with me the other night. It was just utterly shattered. It took every bit of energy out of me. It was horrific to see Rangers 5-0 down at half time. I won't forget that in a hurry, so I get the pain. But I think the best way to do a recap is to describe it in terms of American History X. You see American History X? Edward Norton, Edward Furlong. Edward Norton's playing Derek Vineyards, is it? No, it's all about neo-Nazis and that kind of thing. Skinheads and that stuff in America. If you know the film, you know the film. A bit far here, but we're lads, aren't we? We're lads. We're just talking lad stuff. We're just talking blokes. Let's just fucking. We're talking amongst ourselves. We don't want veganism. We don't want stuff. So we're talking about Derek. He's in the neo-Nazis, and he starts to get a bit, ratty with them. He doesn't think they're doing things well enough, and so they sort him out by doing what prison gangs tend to do to somebody they're having a hard time with in the prison showers. They trap him in the prison showers, and they give him a bit of a message, and there's nothing he can do about it because they're all holding him down. And he's very sore after it, and it's a total humiliation as well as being physically devastating. It's 6-0, and then that's supposed to teach him a lesson, but they're going to bring him back into the fold. But no, he's like, no, I'm never going back into the fold. This isn't prison. This isn't an American prison. It's like he's going to die. You've got to be in a gang. You've got to be in a gang in American prisons, or you will get taken out by, the black guys are on one gang, and they're going to take out any white guys who aren't ganged up. So, but he's like, no, I'm done. After that, I can't go back. And you're waiting. He's waiting for somebody to just come and shank him, just finish him off, just do him. That is it. He's going to die. But it never happens. There's a couple of times guys are coming towards him, and he thinks, oh, this is it. I'm done for. But they're just coming to pick up, to get on the weights or something like that. I just happen to be walking past him and drawing him a dirty look. He's fine, he survives, and he gets out of prison alive, but obviously having been through really traumatic stuff. I think that's pretty much how it went the other night. We got the devastating the assault, we couldn't do anything about it. It was just we were helpless, and it was humiliating. And then the final 40 minutes of that game, just waiting for us to go over our record defeat in Europe, just to go over that 6-goal margin. We've never been beat by more than 6 goals. I was actually waiting for it to go to 8, probably up to 10, double figures, and we could never recover from that. It's just something that we held over for the rest of your life. Not that we can get over the fact that we've been beat 6-0, but didn't happen. The whole thing with American History X is Derek gets out. He gets out the jail, and then his wee brother gets killed. His wee brother gets shot as a result of the racism that they were right into only too recently, and that's the worst thing ever. No, it's not even him. It's not him that's been killed. It's his wee brother, and he can't do anything about it. But it's also today with the stuff they've been doing, and that's us on Sunday. We faced that happening to us on Sunday. If Celtic come and give us a doing just to finish off what's been a horrendous week, that's the big fear. But there's a bit in American History X, if you've seen it. It's a phenomenal film. I would recommend it to anybody. Obviously it's brutal. There's brutal warning there. But after he's been attacked in the prison showers, Derek just knows he's so confused. He knows he can't keep doing the racism thing, but it could cost him his life and blah blah. And he cries out he reaches out to his old high school headmaster, who him and his wee brother would taunt at the beginning, and it's what's his name, Sweeney, Dr. Bob, and he's also a kind of outreach worker, a community guy, a black fella. That's the thing. This is he's been preaching. Derek's previously been preaching kind of racial hatred and that. So he comes into the prison. He's like, "You got to help me. I don't know what's happening. I mean, you've got to help me. I'm so confused and I'm just desperate." And he says, "Right, that's fine, but I'm just going to ask you one thing. What did you do recently that's made your life better? What have you done recently that's made your life better?" And he just dissolves into tears because he knows he's done all this hate and all this. It's not made his life in any way better, and that's the turning point for him emotionally, for him in terms of his behaviour. And today we had Russell Martin, a man who's done nothing but try to make his life better and the life of his teammates better when he was a player, the life of his family better, and his own life, the life of Rangers fans, our life. He's trying to improve our life as well. He's trying to do that, and he's trying to help teams. And we had him facing a rat bag, asking him, "What have you done to make things better here at Rangers?" One of the most cowardly questions in its tone, and its accusation, and the fact that it didn't have the honesty, the decency to just stand up and be an insult. It was camouflaging itself just enough, barely enough, that there's no good reason for Rangers officials to throw him out. When was Tom English? When's he been at a press conference this season? At a very when's the last time he was at a Rangers presser? Very strong reek of, this guy's on the carpet. I'm going to get in there and put the boot in, and I'm going to ask him a horrific question. Seems perfectly reasonable. That could be dressed. That's a perfectly reasonable question. I'm just asking him what's he done to make things better. Now, Russell Martin, to his credit, did not then just say, "Well, for example, I've won 2 more rounds in Europa in Champions League qualifying than my predecessor last season. I've got us a round further, because we went in a round earlier. But I've got us into the playoff round of the Champions League qualifying, which is a round further than we went last season. Despite the fact there's even more change going on, probably this summer than it was last summer." He didn't bother saying that. He didn't start saying, "But just at the beginning of a major project, obviously it's not going to on the part." The guy just meant, "You're not winning games. You get beat 6-0. Tell me something you've done that's made the stuff better." Absolutely, it was disgusting. It was horrible, and I know it's designed for this kind of moment to get a football supporter, to get a supporter of that team upset as well, because that's what it's all about these days. It's about the rage. It's about the shame. He was trying to shame our manager, for trying to manage a football team. He was trying to turn basically what happens to everybody in football. They're having a tough run. They're not getting the success. He was trying to turn that into something moral, a moral shaming, and it was fucking disgusting. And I'm not going to forget. I don't like Tom English anyway. A rugby correspondent. It's got the whole kind of. It sounds like a very private school thing. Maybe that's just anybody who's into rugby. I automatically start thinking private school. That in itself that's one of my very real bigotries, which I obviously need to get over. And there's people who go to private school who are absolutely lovely. Don't get me wrong, but I've met a few of them, But it was ambulance chasing. There was ambulance chasing of the worst kind, being dressed up as journalism, and the class with which he dealt with it, I found very. And I can't have a problem with that man. I can't have a problem with Russell Martin. When you see what he's going through, when you see he's getting thrown at him, it's everybody is working themselves into a frenzy, and people from the mainstream media are right in there stoking it up, asking questions which imply, is there going to be trouble in the stands on Sunday? If you don't walk, just wanting somebody's head on a stick, wanting to be the person that. I know we're thinking, and we do. I was discussing this tonight with Ben on the Jersnet podcast. So I'd better remind you that this is your fat eck. I never thought I'd be happy to see Celtic fans at Ibrox, and actually hoping they're as colourful and loud as possible, because maybe that way we'll be reminded who the real enemy is supposed to be Old Firm Preview Pod, coming to you in association with Jersnet. Jersnet, check it out every Friday night, 9 o'clock, every Sunday at 9:30. And this Friday, it was myself, hosted by the absolute gentleman that is Ben Herschel. And and I have to straight away, I do that thing when I'll do a snagging list of my own pods. I don't have time to do one about the pod the other night, the post-match reaction. That was just an absolute car crash, and thanks to everybody who stuck with it anyway. But it was a true representation of how I was feeling. Devastated. But straight away tonight, it's after like 2 minutes. Ben says to me, he's wearing a green top when he's for Northern Ireland, and he's Northern Irish, and he's saying to me, by the way, this is Steve Davis green. And I'm like, what a bit, I've just left him hanging. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm just thinking, I know I'm going to talk too much like I'm doing just now. I know I'm going to talk too much. I don't want to completely, I was going to come back and say, but I didn't. I thought, no, I'm just going to leave it. Let Ben have a moment to talk. He said, it's me he's talking to. There's only two of us on the pod. A response, please, Alec. I'm like, also, I'm not from Northern Ireland, and I'm probably scared I'm going to say something wrong, and I was just thinking, as soon as I saw him, fucking Northern Ireland, brilliant. I don't know what you say, it's totally staunch, because then I might end up, that just sound like a patronising lightweight foreigner, who's trying to get off on somebody else's lived experience, But aye, I would check out Jersnet tonight, 9 o'clock. I'm sponsored by that. And just get in touch with Frankie, who runs Jersnet, Frankie the gaffer, who was on the comms tonight, or get in touch with Ben and just tell them how much of my patter I've recycled for this pod, how much my patter for the Jersnet podcast that I've actually recycled here. And maybe tell them they're due some sort of solid sport type refund, although I'm not worth as much as £12. Take it back. But this thing, I'm on that. I'm sponsored by that. And I'm also sponsored by I thought it was my mate impersonating them. Anecdotes about somebody famous, phoning you up. Somebody famous phones you up and you think it's your mate impersonating them. I saw two of them the other day. It was like Stuart McCall talking about Jock Stein phoning him when he get capped for England, like under 21s. So Jock Stein phones, obviously trying to get him to play for Scotland. And he just phones up and he's like, just want to congratulate you and get capped and all the best in the game. And he's, at first he's got a mate, of course. They've always got a mate who does funny voices and is good at impersonating folk in these anecdotes. And you're like, right, he's going to say the mate. So what happened then, Stuart, was obviously you were then cheeky. You're gone along with it, but you're being really cheeky because you think it's actually your mate. And then halfway through the conversation, you realise it is the real person. And, oh my God, you're dying off, but they're pure class and they just carry on. I nearly ruined the biggest chance of my life. So it's really like touching the story because he's talking about how he's in tears and all that. Stuart McCall's totally in tears. It's Jock Stein just phoned me my Scotland. I am Scottish. Oh my God, I have to play for Scotland. Really funny. And that's the next day there was some actor about Steven Spielberg. I just switched off. It's on YouTube Shorts. I just doom scrolling, but it's just some actor. Steven Spielberg phoned me and asked me about it, and of course what. You've got a lot of actor buddies who can do impersonations, and one of them's a bit cheeky and a bit funny and is always making prank phone calls, and you thought it was him, so you started slagging Steven Spielberg, and you thought you were going to lose your chance. You know how it's going to go. Is it Laurie Anderson, the kind of just a fantastic Laurie Anderson, the artist and mixed media artist, singer, whatever. Superman. She it was her that said the thing about the detective novel. That when somebody gets murdered and then you try to find out who did it. It says that the actual real story, the only real story happens right at the beginning, and everything else thereafter is just the accumulation of data, related data. So something along those lines. Also, that's fantastic. But that's what these anecdotes are. The kind of phone call. The story is right at the beginning. I got a phone call for somebody really famous. And then you know what happens after that. No, so you just stop there. Just tell us that your phone call for us, and that was your big break. We don't really need to know this. Although the thing is, we won't be having phone calls much longer. People just emails, and there's all these things you can check. Security things with the banks. We'll never phone you. There's ways of working these things out. They'll probably send you a text or something like that, and you'll get back to them and you'll find out it's their agent and it's their secretary. So these are actually historical artefacts, that kind of anecdote, as is historical artefacts until February anyway, the home and away European tie. We'll be seeing any more of them until February at the earliest, thank God. Quite frankly, how you doing, folks? My name's Alec Anderson. Conversion, software version 7.0. looking at life through the eyes of a tire hub. Eating seeds is a pastime activity. The toxicity of our city, new worry on the world's hurry on disorder. Somewhere between the sacred silence and sleep. Somewhere between the sacred silence and sleep. Disorder. That's System of a Down, Toxicity. We're on a systematic downer under Russell Martin just now. We're just facing up to our long-term problems, and we're doing that through the person of Russell Martin. But Toxicity seems to be what they're about. It's in our city. Oh, really? Sometimes I put a lot of thought into the wee songs that I'm going to use in these pods before I absolutely murder them. My name's Alec Anderson. I'm talking to you before the first Old Firm game of the season. I'm talking to you previewing Sunday's Old Firm game, noon kick-off at Ibrox, playing Celtic, and looking for our first win, or maybe we're going to have our first defeat of the league season, our fourth league match, and Rangers looking to, I think possibly, was it 5? It would be 5 draws on the trot, because we drew with Hibs last day of the season. We really shouldn't have, with a perfectly good goal. I mean, we should have 1-2-0. We drew nothing. We should have pumped Hibs. But anyway, we drew with Hibs last day of the season at Easter Road. Then we've drawn our first 3 league games of this season. So it'll be 5 draws in the trot, I think, for the first time since under Alec McLeish back in 2005. So that's 20 years. That's quite the thing around about that. Anyway, around about that time. But I think we need to stick with Russell Martin, who's under so much pressure. A lot of people thinking that he shouldn't even have got this far. He should have been sacked instantly after that debacle in Bruges the other night. I don't think we're at that moment. I'm just repeating stuff I said on Jersey earlier tonight. Please check it out. But I don't think we sacked Clement or Michael Beale a moment too soon or a moment too late. There's just a general feel, just like, yeah, that's bad. Yeah, that's awful. Yeah, it's terrible. He's come back a bit there. Are they going to turn it down? No, that's it. It's gone. I think it was the same with Giovanni Van Bronckhorst as well, who some people still maintain we sacked too early, but it's just gone. You can see that's it done. I don't actually think we're at that point. I think we're still trying to suss out if this is just, taking us back to basics before building us back up again, stripping it down before building it back up. I'm repeating my partner for Jersnet, but I can only say what I feel. So I don't think we sacked him a moment too soon, and when we did sack like Michael Beale and Philippe Clement and Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, they'd all completed at least 1, possibly 2 minimum transfer windows. They had a couple of them under their belt, at least a couple of them under their belt before they were sacked. Russell Martin doesn't even have a full 1 whole transfer window under his belt, and we want to sack him when it's not even the end of his first transfer window. He's trying to effect a bigger change, I think, than either of those other players, and we just give him a transfer window, he's trying to change his style, he's trying to change the psychology of the club, or the squad. Give him a chance. Football's unique. You don't want to know how sausages. You don't want to see how sausages are made. You also don't want to walk in on the 2 guys you've got in doing up your bathroom when they're trying to suss it. Is that when you hear them giving it? Is that the hot pipe there? Is that the cold pipe there? Is that you don't want to know about stuff like that. You could panic if you watch stuff too closely. You're going to worry yourself unnecessarily. You come back in, everything's fine. Football's different. You have to watch the process. You have to see an embryonic team finding its feet. You have to watch your most talented players be your least loyal and most disruptive. You have to see great loyal players approach and pass their sell-by date. It's a brutal process, but the rewards, if you hang in there, well, they're as good as having a plate of perfectly cooked sausages while you're sitting in your brand new bog. It's really nice. We lost to Queen's Park in the Scottish Cup in February. It's the only time we've lost at Ibrox in the Scottish Cup. The 3rd oldest competition in the world. The oldest cup competition in the world. I think the Welsh Cup, the Northern Irish Cup is the leagues. Maybe it's the 2nd oldest. It's the oldest trophy anyway, the Scottish Cup. It's ancient. It's certainly the oldest competition in Scotland. Very prestigious. We had that before we had the leagues, and it's the first time we've ever lost at home to a team from a league lower than ourselves, or lost at Ibrox to a team from a league lower than ourselves. Absolutely humiliating, and that started the worst run of home form in our entire 153-year history. 4 straight losses, then a draw. The draw with Athletic Club Bilbao was fantastic. It's not the full story, but it's the key facts. Russell Martin is doing no worse, I think, in that respect than Clement and Ferguson. They combined to throw in the kind of home and away wins over Celtic in a European quarter-final as compensation, Clement and Ferguson. But, well, Russell's got us into the Europa League. And he's won 2 of his home European ties so far, and they won that season-defining tie with Panathinaikos. Now we just want the kind of other bit of compensation we're due. We don't do a Michael Beale like he did in his first home game of what was supposed to be his first home Old Firm game, his first Old Firm game at home, and what was supposed to be his first full season in charge. And Celtic under Brendan Rodgers, I think they draw 0-0 with St Johnstone the week before, and they were getting booed around the park by their own supporters at the end. They were struggling, and then we just got it all wrong. Michael Beale overthought it, and that was the beginning of the end. If we're kind of fickle enough to give away our season tickets in August, we're fickle enough to start using them again in September. So I think the owners realise that they're not going to be fooled by all the histrionics, which they will be witness to firsthand as Parag Marath and Andrew Kavanagh, the new owners, apparently are going to be at the game. They're going to be at training tomorrow. And they were going to be at training, Russell Martin pointed out to you. They were always going to be at training tomorrow. That was arranged before the debacle in Brugge. It's not that they're coming over to tell him he's sacked at training tomorrow. The manager's press conference today was a stressful thing to watch. What I'm trying to say is we're trying to change every other aspect of the club this summer. We're trying to change. The owners are new, the directors, half of them are new. They're in a new structure anyway. And half the players are new players, and the whole coaching staff obviously is new. And so we're trying everything we can. If the problem, to eradicate this problem of us not being able to beat the middle-ranking Scottish teams, the European thing, taking tanks, we should have probably lost 6 goals to Lyon when they came to Ibrox in the Europa League last season and were beating us 4-1 going on 6 or 7. But if we persist in having these problems despite continually changing everything and getting richer owners in and better executives in, and that's up for debate whether they're better or not. There's certainly no worse than what we had before. The problem then can only be either the players that have been here from last season, the stadium, we just don't like the configuration of Ibrox, the colour blue, the Glasgow weather, or us, the fans, the people. We can't take watching eggs getting smashed to make that omelette. That's why it seems just now anyway. Well, welcome to what we've been demanding for the last 14 years. Owners who don't give a shit what you think. Let the 49ers Enterprises and Parag Marath be the kind of beneficial bookend to the equally indifferent Craig White. We welcomed White and our latest 2 owners. We welcomed them as liberators. They come in as it was like they were liberating Paris, and we were Paris, and they were the Americans arriving. But this time, I think we've got the right owners. And this time, I think these guys they're going to sell us at a drop of a hat if the financial wind changes, but and they're going to make damn sure they make a profit off us, but they're going to do that by winning. And they don't really care how we feel. I felt as the manager it was a hit job. The press conference today, the pre-match press conference, it was disgusting, yes, but not at the kind of it's not at the point yet. I don't think Russell Martin, when my colleague, my friend Ronnie Esplin, had to tell Philip Clement last season. I'm sorry, Ronnie, I'm laughing if he's watching it, but I've told him before. It was just, he wasn't getting it. Philip Clement wasn't understanding what it meant to lose to Queen's Park, and he had another couple of games. I think it might have been the game before, but the press conference before the game against St Mirren. We went to Tynecastle and we won 3-1, but it was still pretty unconvincing the week after the Queen's Park game. And I think Ronnie said to him in the pre-match presser at Ibrox on Friday, "You've got to go. You've got this. No, that's got to be the final. That's got to be the final act. You've lost to Queen's Park in the Scottish Cup. You can't get over that. You've lost to a championship. You lost to Queen's Park in the Scottish Cup in 1898 or something like that. That's different. But you're losing to them just now in the Scottish Cup. You've got to go. That's basically you're done." And Clement's just thinking, "Oh, I think I am actually. I didn't realise it was like this." I don't think Russell Martin is quite at that point yet. I'm needing to be told. And the press don't want him to be, because the guys, a lot of the guys that were asking the questions today, other people try to be compassionate, try to kind of talk on his behalf, but most of them seem to want, they smelt blood and they were going for it. They seem to be setting it up. Him and Raskin have fallen out, and they just kept asking him the question to the point where he really couldn't answer it anymore. And he answered it pretty honestly. It's like he refused to do the personal thing. He refused to make it personal about Raskin. He said, I've got the same relationship with every player. I've got the same relationship with Nico Raskin I've got with every player. Yeah, I'm agreeing with what we were seeing the other night with Raskin being dropped before that game in Brugge, and the different messaging that's been coming out of the club, the things that Russell Martin has been openly saying in his press conferences, and that the fact that Raskin clearly doesn't want to play at 8, or doesn't want to play at the position 8 in Russell Martin's system, and then he gets dropped, and then he's in at number 6, which is his preferred position. It looks to me like Russell Martin's trying to reconcile things with him. Maybe Russell Martin's been horrifically out of order with Nico Raskin. I can't imagine that. Doesn't mean to say it's not happening. But he's refusing to throw him under the bus today, Nico Raskin, and it was like, can you confirm that he's going to be in the squad? Because, of course, Russell Martin the other night after the game against Brugge, the trauma against Brugge in Brugge, was saying that once the transfer window, there's a lot of disruption because players have got their heads turned, and once the transfer window shuts on Monday, we'll be better. We'll be in a better place to get that sorted out. Heavily implying, you mentioned this right after talking about Raskin, or right before it, but then denying he's talking about Raskin in particular, just saying there's a lot of players having their heads turned. It's a lot of uncertainty, transfer windows. So everybody's taken from that Nico Raskin wants to go or is leaving. Rangers obviously can't afford to discipline Nico Raskin for any kind of rebelliousness in the dressing room. We kind of sack him because we need the money. He's so valuable. He's obviously the best player we have. There'll be a lot of people watching him. He could get I think between 15 to 20 million. Nico Raskin probably. So he's got his hands tied a bit, Russell Martin. But if Raskin is creating and just anyway, the whole thing is we don't know what's going on between them. It seems that they're falling out. They're butting heads anyway. But well, Martin says I can't guarantee he's going to be in the squad, and so I can't guarantee anybody's going to be in the squad on Sunday because they've been at training. They've got to see what happens after training. People get strains and all that, and I'm not going to name my squad. I think he implied it without ever saying it out loud. Don't want to let Celtic know who's going to be in our team, but also the transfer window is coming to a close. This is the mad couple of days of the transfer window are coming up, and anybody could go. We could get an offer in for him. So. But it wasn't going to be allowed. They just kept asking him the same question, and he's getting a bit frustrated, and that's what happens. It's like, that's good. He was getting angry. You can put that in your report. He was clearly getting angry when I asked him about Nico Raskin. There must be tension there. They must have fallen out. That's not what he's getting angry at, I don't think. But he refused to single out. If you look at the way he didn't retaliate against Egerman. Egerman shamed him publicly, if you like, if you want to be dramatic about it, at St Mirren last week, at Paisley last week, by refusing to come on despite allowing himself to be a named substitute. Suddenly, I've just picked up a wee injury there in the warm-up. He had to mention it as well. There's been a bit of backlash. Russell Martin, why did he mention that? Why did he hang the player out to dry? He should keep that in-house. Because Ian Crocker on Sky Sports and Neil McCann, who was on the coaching staff 2 minutes ago, and as a Rangers legend, Neil McCann, they're in the commentary position going, aye, it looked like we were going to bring on Egerman there, but no, he's sat back down and they're having to bring somebody else on. They're having to change the substitution for what they're originally going to be, and Neil McCann's commenting the fact that Egerman, if he's warming up, it's the worst warm-up I've ever seen. He's not doing a lot of warming up by the looks of him. He's hardly moving. So it was out there. It was going to be something he's going to be asked anyway, and he's just giving an honest answer. And then when it's obvious, it's because Egerman wants a move and he's due to go to Lille. He's now officially gone. It's 10.4 million supposedly. He's not saying in the press conference on Tuesday night ahead of the Brugge game, yeah, that was disgusting, it was totally out of order, blah, blah, blah. He's just saying he's a young fella. He's got all sorts of folk talking. He doesn't even speak the language. It's difficult for him. His sympathies with the person who's actually attacking him. Today, same thing with Nico Raskin's dad. He's getting asked about Nico Raskin's dad slagging him off. I don't know if it was on Twitter or Instagram or it's been picked up. I've never actually seen what it is Nico Raskin's dad's saying about Russell Martin, but it's like, everybody's entitled to their opinion. I don't have a problem with that. And never, anytime he's talking about Nico Raskin, he always says he's a great player, he's a cracking player, I think he's really valuable and blah, blah, blah. He's always dialing it back while also at the same time trying to explain what's happening just now, why the team's performing so poorly. But he's all these cryptic answers he's given. He actually sounds like it's the same tone in these answers as you get from a manager who's having a go at his board. Maybe the manager of Sunday's Visitors. It's that kind of cryptic stuff where he's like, I don't want to say too much, but there's problems coming. And it's obviously the players he's talking about, and it seems to be existing. The players who were there when he arrived, they feel that they're the management. They feel they're the power structure, obviously, and he's butting heads with them. And I think, as I said extensively this season already, I think he's been given carte blanche to do just that by the owners and by Patrick Stewart and all that. Barry Ferguson was saying all this last season as well, implying heavily that a lot of the players did not have the character. We slagged the living shit out of Cyril Dessers last season and the season before, and he's been a top scorer for the last 2 seasons. Just keeps playing, just keeps doing it. The way it was getting towards the way we're slagging Russell Martin just now. We had remember Todd Cantwell versus Aris Limassol at Ibrox under Philip Clement. Everybody wants Sam Lammers taken off, and he takes off Todd Cantwell. I watched the game back the next day. Todd Cantwell was nowhere near the position he'd been given. And what we know, we know Philip Clement was wanting his players to stick rigidly to whatever position was it, 4-2-3-1. He wanted me to stick to their positions, and Cantwell was all over the place and trying to do stuff on the opposite side of the park to try and be the star man. It was total indiscipline, and we were struggling against Aris Limassol. Everybody's up in arms when it's him that gets subbed off after 30 odd minutes, rather than the guy we were all hating because he missed a few sitters, Sam Lammers. We bring on Ross McCormack, and he goes, Ross McCormack, Jesus Christ, I'm really. It's getting late. It says I've done one podcast too many. It's a Northern Ireland thing. It's terrible. It's terrible. Young players, Ross. Oh my God, that's unbelievable. He comes on and scores anyway, didn't he? He's away to Aris Limassol. He's actually playing for Aris Limassol now. He's on loan there. Oh, that's terrifying. That just shows you what a traumatic week it's been and how old I am. So that one worked out, basically, and we've got the same thing with Aarons. Get Aarons in it right back. Get Tav out the way. Why is Tav still playing right back? Aarons shouldn't be at left back, and Aarons goes in, has one good game at right back. Everybody's been right. Everybody's been proved correct. And then a fortnight later, we're all wanting him hunted. And then the fans are getting the banner, the self-mades, and the Ross McCausland, Jesus, and the spur of the moment the other night, they've got the gaffer tape out and it's kind of a t-shirt, tifo, calling the players cowards. I don't think that was about bravery the other night. I think that was just being absolutely garbage. Probably having too much information taken on board and dealing with whatever drama was going on in the dressing room before the game. I'm absolutely sick of people succeeding at Rangers despite us, despite the fans. Not because of us. And it's really easy, I've said this before, it's really handy how it works out, this thing of slaughtering people. The vegan thing for Russell Martin is so beyond belief, how that's been used, and I think some folk just think it's quite a harmless joke as well, but it's been put on his hair and stuff like that, no wearing the suit and that kind of thing. He's got nothing to do with it. And the number of times I've done this historically, Russell Martin was talking about it himself in the presser today, and you've got like Mark Hateley, what he went through, and it was Ali McCoist, the whole stadium, Ali, get to fuck. Rangers legend, absolute legend, because they're not there anymore, because they're not playing anymore, because they're not in the position they were in at the club. Once you move on, you can be a legend, but not while you're here, because everybody's got too much to prove in the stands about how they know better. But this idea that we can slag them rot and be absolutely virulent in our abuse of them, and then when they get over it, when they deal with it, and they go on to become the good player or the good manager that we wanted them to be, you can say, we stress tested them. It was us that kind of made that happen. There's never any kind of, Jesus Christ, we were wrong about that. That guy's actually really good. I mean, nearly give him a nervous breakdown. Never gets that. It's just a bit too handy for my liking. I want Miovski up front. I want us to sign Miovski. I don't really like Raskin I would like Raskin to have been sold, over the next 36 hours. I want Nico Raskin to have been sold, so it's not a fallout that he's dropped him. He's not in the team. It's just he's not there anymore. I don't want it to be a thing because a lot of the media angle just now has been you're going to look at the team an hour before kick-off and see that Raskin's on the bench. The manager's picked the team he wants to pick. Then that's it. I don't know what the atmosphere is going to be like when it's going to be toxicity. If we, I don't think he should have said. I wasn't too happy about the manager, about Russell Martin having to talk about stuff he'd been through in his own life. But he was being asked the question if this was the toughest he'd ever experienced at a football club, especially in terms of the abuse he was getting, not just criticism. So he's come in and said, no, there's other stuff. You're a bit hard, you're a bit tough, whatever. But he then tried to imply that there's more important things in life than football. There's much tougher things in life than football, and that's 100% correct. Why would you say that at a press conference? Why would you say that as Rangers head coach when everybody's... Because it's true, and he's got the bravery to say what's true. We'll find out. He might just mean, fuck this shit. I don't actually care that much. I don't care as much as you, nutcases. But it was quite telling, and I hope he succeeds because for having that honesty, for having that kind of sense of proportion. But it was not a nice press conference. What was nice, just for old time's sake, was the Europa League draw. We've got Romans and Green and White Hoops that are managed by Republic of Ireland's top scorer. So that's just keeping the theme up for Sunday, obviously. Last season we had 2 English Premier League and 2 League One clubs. This time, being in pot 1 and having far better coefficient than any other Scottish club, we got ourselves we've got 2 Portuguese clubs, which is difficult enough, but we've got Roma, Serie A. I think this is it's the first time Rangers have played them, certainly in Europe, and it's good that we get to play a Roman club finally. We've never played Lazio either. We get to play a Roman club without having to go to Rome. As I was saying in Jersnet, I've spoiled this one, by giving it out to Jersnet, but I love the fact that we're playing Ferencváros and Porto, the first club we ever played in the Cup Winners' Cup, and the last club we ever played in the Cup Winners' Cup. What I'll add, though, special fat egg bonus, behind the paywall stuff, that when we played in the Cup Winners' Cup for the very first time, and the very first match was against Ferencváros, and that season we went on, it was like Wolves, and who else did we beat? That's Borussia Mönchengladbach. Wolves in the semi-final, obviously Fiorentina beat us in the final. Borussia Mönchengladbach was my second round, or whatever like that. Was that it? It's quite a short tournament? Ferencváros, Slavia, Sofia, perhaps. Did we play them that season? I can't be sure. But we had a good run. We got to the final. It was our first ever European final. But the first time we were in the Cup Winners' Cup, we'd been 3 times in the European Cup before that. And we played Ferencváros. And the reason we played Ferencváros was because the reason we were in the Cup Winners' Cup was because Hearts had won the league in 1960 when we got to the semi-finals of the European Cup and lost. We lost by 8 goals on aggregate. Same as we did the other night. But in 1960 we won the Scottish Cup, beating Kilmarnock 2-0, 2 Jimmy Miller goals, 1960, and the Kilmarnock manager was Willie Waddle, who would then come and win. He'd win the league with Kilmarnock, but he would come and win the Cup Winners' Cup with Rangers. And our last ever match in the Cup Winners' Cup was against Porto. They beat us on away goals. Basically, we beat them 2-1 at Ibrox. They were away goals rule in the first leg in 83-84, and they beat us 1-0 in the old DeSantis Stadium, their old stadium, and that was us out on away goals. I think Tommy McLean was the manager by that point because John Gregg, the captain of our Cup Winners' Cup winning team, had been sacked, I think, between the 2 legs. And Tommy McLean, who's another Barcelona bear, he played in Barcelona. He was the caretaker manager, I'm sure, for the second leg in Porto. And the reason we were in the Cup Winners' Cup in 83-84 is because we lost the Scottish Cup final to Alec Ferguson's Aberdeen, who just won the Cup Winners' Cup. They didn't win the league that season. They'd won the Cup Winners' Cup just a few days before. I was talking about this the other day, but that's Alec Ferguson, who won the Cup Winners' Cup, a manager who won it. We started off with Willie Waddle, got us into the first. Kilmarnock's it just feels, and he also played for us, of course, Alec Ferguson. I just feel as if it's all really quite coincidental. We're playing Brugge as well. For the third time, our old foes for Brugge, who a foe from the 2020s, of course, we had that magnificent game against them. 2 magnificent games, such memorable games at Ibrox against Brugge, and you don't get a third chance to go to their amazing Dumbarton Rock type stadium. It's like 2 Dumbarton Rocks shoved together, really, isn't it? So you're not getting another chance to go over there because it's the new format where you play 4 teams at home and you play 4 teams away. But we've got Roma, I think, must be I don't know. It's certainly the biggest club in Europe, I think, that I haven't seen in terms of aura. I've seen all the clubs that won the European Cup or the Champions League. I've seen all of them. Rangers haven't played them. We haven't played, for example, Nottingham Forest and Aston Villa are two English clubs that have won the European Cup or the Champions League, the European Cup, as it was when they won it. But we haven't played them in European competition, but I've seen the two of them playing in other competitions. I've seen in the league and stuff like that. Doing wee visits, doing wee tours to try and tick off various clubs. But Rangers have come up against like Spurs in Europe and Manchester United and Liverpool and all that. We've played the three three most successful Italian clubs. We played Napoli, of course, recently in Europe. We've played Inter and AC Milan. We played Juventus a couple of times in Europe as well. Played Inter quite a few times. Milan just the once, but we've played all them. We've never met Lazio, but I've seen Lazio in the last Cup final down at Villa Park. But Roma, I'd say, are probably the biggest. Atletico de Madrid, we've never played them in Europe. We've never played at Atletico Madrid. So I think in terms of teams that haven't won the European Cup, them having lost 3 finals, like with penalties after a replay and an extra time, they're probably right up there in terms of the next biggest clubs and all. But I've seen Atletico Madrid. I saw them at Tynecastle in the UEFA Cup in the 80s, early 90s. And I saw them at the Manzanares. I saw them one of the last games they played at the Calderon, playing against Real Sociedad in the league. But I think Roma are both the biggest club in Europe that I haven't seen, and maybe kind of level with Atletico Madrid in terms of, because Roma have lost the European Cup finally, lost it in '84 in penalties to Graham Souness's Liverpool, of course, in their own stadium. I think Roma might be the biggest club we haven't played, and it's the biggest one I haven't seen. It's one of the European finalists that I haven't bagged, so it was absolutely magnificent to get them today and know that they're coming to Ibrox. So Roma were runners-up in the 1984 European Cup. They won the Fairs Cup, the third Fairs Cup. That was 1960-61 season. Beat Birmingham City in the final. They were runners-up in the UEFA Cup, the follower of the Fairs Cup in 1989. They lost to Inter, an all-Italian final, quite narrowly over the 2 legs. It was a home-and-away job in those days, and they won the first ever Conference League under Jose Mourinho. That was 2022, just the week before we were playing the Europa League final. They beat Feyenoord in the final with Cyril Dessers playing. Nicolo Zaniolo, who I think might be the player with the most O's in his name to ever score a goal in a European final. He scored the only goal of the game in Tirana, and then the following season they were runners-up in the Europa League, losing it on penalties as we'd done the previous season. In Seville, they did it against Seville. In Budapest, where the Champions League final's been played this season. I'm getting a bit OTT, folks, sorry. Brugge, as I say, with those 2 fantastic games against them. The great comeback, we're down 2-0 in the first leg. It was the round of 32 in 2019-20 season under Steven Gerrard, and Ibrox, baby. Fantastic Joe Aribo goal sandwich between 2 fantastic goals, or 2 dramatic goals from Yanis Hadji, which completed a comeback. We won 3-2, then went over there and beat them 1-0 on their own patch in the second leg. And a couple of seasons were on the road to Seville, 2021, 2022. We got Brugge in the quarterfinals, lost 1-0 over there, and then we're 2-0 up by half time. 2 Tav goals before half time. We got one in the second minute and then one just before half time. We're 2-0 up. This is the first season without the away goals rule. Brugge score. They're down to 10 men, and they score with like 7 minutes to go. Goes to extra time. Kamar Roof. What a night that was. What a few days that was. The Thursday night, extra time at Ibrox in a European quarter final against Brugge. Who themselves are European finalists. They lost the 2011 Europa League final to Porto in Dublin, in the Aviva in Dublin. So that was a great night. And then the following Sunday, us having played the extra time in Europe on the Thursday night, we go to extra time against Celtic in the Scottish Cup semi-final, and we beat them. And it was just this is great. This is mucky, intense. It's no organised. It's no bit of Rangers are just giving it loudly. That was a cracking few days. That it really was. It was phenomenal. So happy memories with Brugge. 3rd time we're playing them in Europe. 5th match it'll be Porto. It's the 4th time we're playing Porto. The 4th time we're meeting them in Europe. But of course now we're doing this thing where you only play one actual game. So it's been home and away in group stages or whatever before. So it's now. This is going to be the seventh time we've played Porto, seventh game against them in European competition. Like Bayern Munich and like, I think, Borussia Dortmund as well, Porto we have played in the Cup Winners' Cup, the European Cup or Champions League, and the UEFA Cup, or the Fairs Cup, whatever you want to call it. 3 different traditional European competitions, but so we're going to play all 3 of them. Porto, Bayern, Borussia Dortmund and Rangers, all in the Conference League group stage next year, just to make sure we get that ticked off. We've all played each other in all 4 different European competitions. Porto, of course, won the European Cup in 1987, and then they won it again under Mourinho in 2004. It was the Champions League. They won the UEFA Cup, of course, against Celtic in Seville, 2003, and then in Dublin. So a kind of Celtic connection there when they won it in Dublin against Brugge in a Portuguese derby in the 2011 Europa League final, and they lost that 84 Cup Winners' Cup final after putting us out the Cup Winners' Cup for the last time ever in that competition for Rangers, the only competition we've won in Europe. They were knocked out, they were beaten in the final by Juventus in Switzerland. Ferencváros, only Hungarian side we've ever played in Europe, and we played them in the first round of the what do you call it, the Cup Winners' Cup back in 1960-61. It's amazing. Hungary, its reputation. We haven't played a lot of Austrian teams either in Europe. This is the only side we've played. We've only played them once before, 1960. This is us playing our next Hungarian opponent in Europe. Quite, when you think the amount of Belgian teams we're playing recently, the amount of German teams we're playing, the Hungarians, pretty decent. Ferencváros themselves won the Fairs Cup in 1965. They were runners-up in the Cup Winners' Cup final in 75, get thrashed by Dynamo Kiev, and they were runners-up in the Fairs Cup in 1968. Aye, Leeds beat them in the final in 68, and Leeds had lost to Dynamo Zagreb the season before that. So Ludogorets Razgrad, as I was saying to Ben the night in Jersnet, they must be the only team in Europe that hasn't met Ludogorets Razgrad. Only the 3rd time we've met Bulgarians. I think Slavia Sofia and then Levski Sofia back in 1992. Then back in 1993-94 at the playoff stage of the Champions League when we went out to a late belter of a goal over in Sofia, but that's nothing to do with Ludogorets Razgrad. So they'll be difficult, but we're playing them at home, and it's Sturm Graz. Rematch with Sturm Graz, who we, of course, played in the Champions League group stage under the little general, and we lost 2-0 in Graz at the Arnold Schwarzenegger Stadium, which is not, I don't even know if it's called the Arnold Schwarzenegger Stadium still, but it's not up to scratch it's not the standard, it's not suitable for European football now, says UEFA. So they played Bodo Glimt the other night in the second leg. They get hammered by Bodo Glimt in the Champions League playoffs. We know how that feels. Didn't get hammered as badly as we get hammered. They at least won their home leg, having lost 5-0 in Bodo Glimt, in Bodo, in Norway, in the Arctic Circle. But at home, they were actually playing, I think is it Ingolstadt? Is it Ingolstadt it's called? It's a massive stadium, which I'm pretty sure I was saying to Ben tonight, it was just designed, just built up that way to host Euro 2008 matches. So we're probably going to be playing them there in Ingolstadt. But Sturm Graz, of course, we lost 2-0 to them in the Champions League group stages under Dick Advocat at the turn of the millennium, and we beat them 5-0 on a glorious night. The first time we'd beaten anybody by more than a single goal in the Champions League group stages, and we beat them 5-0, with Billy Dodds and all that. And that chip by Billy Dodds, absolutely sincere. It was a tremendous night, a kind of high point for us. I was at that game. That was great. Genk. We've got Genk. I've never seen them before. They only formed in 1988. They're actually a merger of Winterslag and Waterschei. Waterschei, who Aberdeen, doing well in Europe, beat in the semi-finals of the Cup Winners' Cup. And when Aberdeen won it in 1983, 82-83 season, it was Waterschei they played in the semi-finals, thrashed them 5-1. And Alec McLeish, the other Alec McLeish connection is he's been manager of Genk, and Thomas Buffel also played for Genk. I'm pretty sure it was Genk that was, what do you call him? Philip Clement was manager of Genk as well, wasn't he? Before moving on to, I think he won the league with them before going to Club Brugge and winning the league in Belgium twice with them. But so many Belgian teams are playing these days. Union Saint-Gilles was a couple of times recently, and Club Brugge, with Standard Liège and Royal Antwerp under Steven Gerrard in the 55 season. A lot of Belgians, so maybe a bit traumatic to be facing them again, but we've got them at home. They'll be a decent level, as we know. Brandbergen, we've never played them before. It's just like Genk, just like Ludogorets Razgrad. We have never played, and Roma, we've never played Bergen, or I think it's just Bran, they're called, but they're from Bergen, of Norway. We've never played them before in Europe. It's the third Norwegian side we've met. We beat Lillestrøm, I think in the Cup Winners' Cup in the 70s. And of course, we beat Molde under Paul Le Guen. And we've not conceded a goal to any Norwegians. We beat Lillestrøm in the 79-80 Cup Winners' Cup. Who may end up getting put out by Valencia. Thomas Buffel. Thomas Buffel, he played for Genk. Thomas Buffel and Barry Ferguson scored against Molde the last time we played on the Norwegian side. They scored against them at Ibrox, and Thomas Buffel ended up at Genk. And Brad Bergen, last season, they only got to the playoff round. They got to play. They go in earlier. The European teams only got to the playoff round of the Conference League, I think it was. But they beat St Mirren along the way, and they also beat Go Ahead Eagles of Deventer in the second qualifying round or the third qualifying round. That's quite a result. That's the Ant-Mans. They went on to win the Dutch Cup last season, of course. Go Ahead Eagles, and the Ant-Man, we got him from them. Oliver Ant-Man from Go Ahead Eagles Deventer. So that's quite a scalp for them. So they're obviously pretty dangerous on their day, and they then get put out by Astana of Kazakhstan. Lillestrøm, they won 2-0 at home, then they lost 3-0 in Astana. I think it's a different stadium, but that's what Alec McLeish's Scotland lost 3-0 to Kazakhstan in Astana in a Euros qualifier. So there's a lot of Alec McLeish links with all this stuff. But it's a really exciting European draw. I'm quite looking forward to it. 3 new clubs for me to see at Ibrox. One beaten European final, one kind of unticked European finalist for myself, and one former European champion club, 2 other European trophy winners, 1 other European finalist. It's good. I'm really that's nice. I just hope we can get ourselves sorted out to do the business. Listen, folks, I'm sorry about the length of these pods. I can't. It's crisis upon crisis upon crisis with Rangers, and it feels like a bit cheap to kind of cop out and run away. We're going to get a break next week anyway. No doubt I'll have to be back after Sunday at some point for a wee warm down. But it's big press conferences, big European draws, big news has been happening since the end of June, since the end of last season. It's just been ongoing. So the pods are getting longer and longer. But I'm trying to kind of bring that down, give you a wee break. You really deserve a break, and give your ears a break. No doubt the Old Firm game, good or bad, will require more than just Sunday's post-match pod to cover it properly. But I want to apologise if I haven't been able to get back to anybody in the posts. People, I really appreciate that the replies people write in under the videos that I post, and it's quite a lovely wee community we've got there. I like to reply to anybody taking the time to write in, if it's appropriate. Some folk don't want to reply, but if I like it though, if you see me the wee love heart going on to it, means I've read it. I don't like anything that I haven't actually read. I wouldn't give it a like. It means I have read it, and I don't just kind of blindly like stuff. And sometimes I might not necessarily agree with everything that somebody's saying in a post or a reply, but I'm appreciating you taking your time and the fact that you've got in touch and take the time to watch my pod and give me your thoughts. And that's what I just want to say. It's been a bloody hard watch for us all, I think, this month of August, and I've given you a lot to listen to, not all of it necessarily tip-top or slick, but it's all a total reflection of how I'm actually feeling, and it means the world. It means the world to know that there are other people out there who are as depressed, fat, baldy, sick in the head, depraved, alcoholic, and just downright bigoted, perverted, and borderline murderously violent as myself. I feel seen. I feel seen. I feel heard. I feel gassy, and I know you do too. I know you guys do too, and I love you troops. No, thanks very much. No, I'm fine. It's got. We'll just let it go. Martin O'Neill, 2003. I've mentioned this before. Did that thing where he said Celtic were having to play the Old Firm derby at Ibrox on the Sunday as scheduled at the beginning of the season, having played a European semi-final on a Thursday night against Boavista. They beat Boavista in the city we're going to, in Porto, in a Porto 2003 semi-final, and then they were having the second leg, and they were having to play us, and he came out in the BBC or something. He said it was BBC. I just don't think Rangers would ever be made to play an Old Firm game away from home straight after a European semi-final. This is obviously people just don't want Scottish football doesn't want Celtic to succeed. Basically, is what he was saying. It's bigoted towards Rangers. It's biased towards Rangers. That was the implication. But what he actually said was, I just don't think Rangers would be asked to play an Old Firm game away from home on the Sunday after a European semi-final on the Thursday night, and I really don't know how the Celtic supporters will react if we lose this game. At Ibrox, this is when Celtic were bringing 8,000 to Ibrox. He was basically saying, if they riot, it'll be okay. And never mind the fact that 5 years after that, in the very same competition at the semi-final stage, we were made to play at Parkhead in a league derby and another equally tight league race, either side of a semi-final against Fiorentina. Either just like in between it, was it merged in between two Old Firm derbies at Parkhead? Either side. Never mind that. Just the fact that this performative pish from Martin O'Neill, who's I find a nasty wee character, Martin O'Neill, very good football manager, but some of his this was all to help himself to cover any possible failings. The fact that they might not win the league that season or whatever, it was going to be our fault. And Celtic won the game at Ibrox. They won the game. They didn't win the league, but they won the game at Ibrox. So we got attacked at Fir Park after we lost the promotion playoff. Remember to Motherwell home and away in the second leg was at Fir Park, and we got a little corner of support in that big Motorola stand that they built purposely to make money off Rangers and Celtic fans. That's one of the few times it's ever had more Motherwell fans in it than any other support. We, obviously the Scottish Cup final, we know what happened in 2016, the Scottish Cup final. Our players were getting attacked on the pitch and they were coming towards us. And Rangers have got a massive history of causing violence all over. Our support being violent and misbehaving all over Scotland and at Ibrox and all over Europe and stuff like that. And most big clubs have. Just as the times change, behaviours change. But when with that kind of stuff done to us by other supporters and other football managers, rivals, why the hell would we be teeing ourselves up to, I don't know what was supposed to be happening. We're supposed to be ripping seats out, or we're supposed to be, I think it's mostly, most people think we're just going to be shouting blue murder at Russell Martin if Celtic score the first goal on Sunday or something like that. Just remember, we're at home. That's our house. So I don't want you're too old to be lectured. Sorry, I don't want it. I'm going to go along and just hope if it's not going well, if we're not doing well, then I'll just shut my mouth. I'll not cheer Rangers on. I'll not applaud them off the pitch. You know what I mean? But there comes a point where you actually end up, you're taking stuff out on Rangers that is not Rangers' fault. There's going to be ups, there's going to be downs. We're still in the big comeback from 2012, but I'm not taking it out on our beautiful stadium. When we've had stuff happen to us at other stadiums. I'm not saying keep it all in and then go and, but I think we've got 3 home games in the trot coming up. Keep it all and then go and wreck whatever stadium we're going to next. But that's your stadium. That's your club. Just be careful you're not being pushed into behaving a certain way because the media just want to kind of take the piss out of us and hope that we're going to give them some drama. We're going to have a total meltdown. Most of all, I hope Rangers will do the business. But anyway, I love you guys. I'm fine. It's just Sunday. I'll talk to you if I don't see you in Jersnet tonight. I'll talk to you after the game. And so could you pick up milk? Could you get milk? I go to low fairly. That's it. The Old Firm are both so bad right now, aren't they? They're both so bad. It's Rangers and Celtic are united in their uselessness. Hold my pint once, hold my pint. I was talking in Wednesday about the fact that the last time we lost a European match 6-0, we won the treble. But the last time we lost a European tie 9-1 on aggregate, who won the league? Yeah. When I became the sun, I shone life into the man's hearts. When I became the sun, I shone life into the man's hearts.